So today we'll talk about how karma works. Karma or karma as it is said in Hindi or Sanskrit. This karmic law is the law of cause and effect, right? And often in life we think about why does a certain thing happen to us? Why am I born in a certain place, to a certain family, amongst certain people? Why am I born in this specific country? Or why did a specific ailment hit me? Or why does a particular thing happen to me, right? Even in moments of extreme luck, we often question, what have I done to deserve this? And the law of karma, or karma in general, seeks to explain that. Karma in Hindi or Sanskrit just means action. Any act that you do, like taking your dog for a walk, or talking to somebody, or even pushing a chair from this part of the room to the other part of the room, it's all karma. These are all actions. And these all make sense to us, right? If while pushing a chair too hard, it falls down, we don't question it, right? We automatically understand that maybe I pushed it too hard and that is why the chair fell down. Karma, which is instantaneous and happens in front of our eyes, is very easy to understand. But most of the times in life, karmic effect is delayed, right? Which creates a lot of confusion. Why is a particular thing happening to me? What have I done to deserve this? It is because we can't find a cause to a certain effect that we are encountering. It is in times like that when we question how karma works, right? Why does a certain effect happen to us? What is the cause of it? And when we can't trace it back to a cause, we just vaguely call it karma, right? So karmic law is the law of cause and effect. In Indian non-dual philosophies or even just broader Indian philosophy, this is covered in a lot of detail and there's a lot to learn from it. And also a question may arise in your head that where is this karma stored? Where is my karmic records? Where are they stored, right? And you will have all sorts of vague answers around it, like they are stored in the Akashic records, somewhere in the sky, there's a book of destiny somewhere, or God himself is writing down all of your deeds. All these sorts of explanations are all over the place. But karma really is stored in the universal mind. Now you might ask, I know my mind. Where is this universal mind? The universal mind isn't some big mind somewhere outside of the world or in the sky. The universal mind is just the sum total of all the minds in existence. That is the universal mind. In Hindu philosophy, it is called as Shri Man Narayan, or just the universal mind. And karma really is stored in the universal mind, in your mind, in the mind of others, and the sum total of all minds that exist is the universal mind. That is where karma is stored, right? For instance, if a thief steals something, let's say he steals some cash from somebody's home, and he thinks that nobody saw it, so it didn't happen, I will have no karmic effects of it, right? That is wrong, because he himself saw it. It is stored as deep guilt, subconscious guilt or shame in their own subconscious mind. And that is how karma is there, and it has a constant effect on their lives, and it will fructify one day. That is how karma works. It's stored in minds, right? The sum total of all the minds around us. And in acts that are very public, let's say you were rudely speaking to somebody and another person notices it. That person will have some judgment about you in their own mind. And weeks later, when they come talk to you, you will sense that antagonistic attitude from them. And that is just how karma works, right? You might think, I have done nothing bad to this person, but that impression has already been left in his subconscious mind. And it gives you real effects that affect you in your life. That is how karma works. It is covered in much vivid detail in Indian philosophy. So let's get into this. In broader Hindu philosophy, it is classified into 3 types of karma. The first one is Sanchit karma. Sanchit karma just means all of your stored karma, right? And this is stored karma within you, right? In your own causal body. The causal body is another deep concept that just explains the reason for your individual existence or the appearance of your existence, why you are born, right? causal body is called Karan Sharir. It is the Karan or the cause of your existence. And that is where karma from times that you do not even remember is stored. So it is all of your stored karma that has not fructified in your life, that is not showing up in your life, but may eventually show up one day because it's stored. It is just stored. It is in a potential state. That is the Sanchit karma or the stored karma. And I don't have really much to say about this because there's not much to make sense out of it. It's just stored from times that you do not have any access to. It comes from a deep past of your existence beyond just this life that you're aware of, right? It comes from a place where you do not even remember yourself as yourself. So that is the Sanchit karma. It is in your causal body. It is the cause for you being born. And yes, it is just in a potential format. The second type of karma, which is much more relevant, is your Prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma is your present karma. Your present karma. So you've been born in a certain country, of a certain race, of a certain color, to a certain family. That is all of your Prarabdha karma. It is showing its effect on you, right? You have a certain body type, you have a certain skin color, you're born in a certain place. All of that is based on your karma, right? It is all showing its effect. It has manifested. That is the Prarabdha karma. So let's say you had a lot of junk food when you were a teenager and now you are a fat person, right? So that's Prarabdha karma. It has started showing effects on your body. And Prarabdha karma is said to be like an arrow that has been shot out of a bow. An arrow once shot cannot be taken back. So Prarabdha karma has started showing its effect, and you have to do something actively if you want to do something about it. Everything about your existence in its current form is because of your Prarabdha karma. Some that you can actively trace back, some that you would have no idea about. As I talked about earlier, it's just impressions in the universal mind, in the minds of all the people and even other organisms. It's stored in the universal mind, in all the minds around you, including yourself. So to calculate where it comes from is very difficult. But it is always an effect that is showing up, and it does have a cause somewhere in the past. That is your Prarabdha karma. You can do something about it. It has started showing its effect. It cannot be stopped, but you can do things to mitigate it, to work on it. The third type of karma is Agami karma. Agami karma is your future karma. The things that you will do in the future which will leave impressions on minds, both of yourself and others. But karma mostly has to do with your own mind, your own subconscious. The imprints that you leave on your own subconscious has an active effect on how you feel, how you perceive the world, and your own overall satisfaction in life. So Agami karma is just the karma that you will do in the future. And karmas, let me remind you, are just our actions, and we are constantly in action. Even thoughts are actions, right? Even the thoughts that we have, they leave a constant impression in our minds. And so this cycle of karma is never ending. It's a perpetual cycle. There's very few gaps in the middle. It's constantly writing information in your subconscious mind. And these impressions decide what manifests in this world. That is your karmic records and how you create reality. You create the reality of what you experience, what you manifest, what happens to you, and what you do in life. And you can't calculate where it comes from because there's so many different factors, so many factors at play, so many parameters at play, and it's stored in so many different minds. And there's a lot of elasticity. Something that you may do today may not give you effect tomorrow or day after, but it may just manifest years later, or maybe not even in this lifetime. So karma is tricky like that, but it instills in us this accountability for what is happening to us, to really accept and take control of what we can. Also, on this channel, we talk about non-dual realization and awakening. How does that affect your karma? And this philosophy has a lot to say about that also. So what happens when somebody realizes their own nature and the nature of existence around them, when somebody realizes non-duality? What happens to their karma then? The Sanchit karma, or the stored karma, it vanishes almost instantly. As I said, it is the causal dissatisfaction. It is the core stored karma of your past, which hasn't even started showing any effect till now, right? That just vanishes completely, because now you don't identify yourself as a separate person or an entity that is deserving of suffering or deserving of any sort of individual joy, because now you've realized what you truly are, and that is not a separate individual. You are the existence in its totality, undivided, seamless, and without any separation. So, any deep rooted guilt or shame or any sort of detailed karma about what should happen to you, that all vanishes away. Sanchit karma is said to vanish away completely. And we don't even need to know how it happens. It's just a spontaneous evaporation of the sense of self. Because the sense of a separate self, which is the ego, is at the core of the causal body or the Karan Sharir. That just vanishes. And so does the Sanchit karma. Sanchit karma is just your deep rooted karma from the past that just vanishes, all of it. What happens to the Prarabdha karma, which is your current manifest reality? Your current conditions must play out. Nothing will change there. Of course, if somebody has a certain ailment or if somebody is encountering any difficulty in life, those all will play out as they have. Like I said, it is like an arrow that has been shot out of the bow. It cannot be taken back. But somebody who is realized will realize that this was all due to their own ignorance. These are acts done in their own ignorance, and that guilt or shame is easier to let go. It's easier to let go of any pride that you have associated with any achievement or any sort of false identification that you've had in the past. So Prarabdha karma will play out, but it will not have that much grip on you as it did earlier. So you will be much more relaxed and much more accepting of that Prarabdha karma. And finally, what happens to the Agami karma, the karma that you will write in the future as you live your life? What happens to that is that you stop doing it altogether. You don't attach yourself to what you do now, because now you act just out of necessity. You do not have any personal attachments or personal expectations out of the things you do. You do things out of necessity. So that doesn't leave any strong impression in your mind. It may leave impressions on others, but not on your mind. And your reality is mostly shaped by your own mind. So Agami karma just diminishes, and most of the times realization is gradual, right? It's a gradual process. So in the process of gradual realization, as your realization deepens, so does the disappearance of your Agami karma. You now don't leave that much of impressions in your own mind. No more impressions of pride or guilt or shame or resentment or envy. Such things don't now leave impressions on your mind, and they don't manifest into compulsive desires that lead you on to do actions that will have future effects on you. So Agami karma also diminishes. That is how, in totality, it is said that karma loses its grip on a realized individual. So yeah, karma, simply put, is just the law of cause and effect. When you study anything that happens to you or anything you do as an effect, you will always find a cause for it. You may or may not find a cause for it, but a cause is always there. Causality is an actual property of this appearance that we all are experiencing, this world. And karma is just an explanation for it. I hope that gives you something to think about and helps you in some way.